Well, unlike your boss, President Bush, President Obama gets the written brief is enough for him, and that's all he needed. Well, you know, you and I both know you sit in a meeting and you're able to ask questions and look people in the eye and have a dialogue. It's better than just reading a piece of paper, particularly when the questions at hand are the security of the United States Embassy personnel around the world and how did this happen, who was behind it, what did we know, and when did we know it? And for the President of the United States to put a fundraiser in Las Vegas above getting to the bottom of this and depending upon a piece of paper and not bothering to meet with the intelligence leadership in person is really astonishing.
New developments today with the crisis overseas. That was, of course, Karl Rove speaking last hour about the ongoing attacks on U.S. embassies and President Obama's handling when it comes to this issue and receiving his daily intelligence briefings. Reports say the last time he attended one was September 5th. The National Security Council spokesperson, Tommy Vietor, is now pushing back against the critics, saying, well, President Obama reads the daily intel brief every day instead of having it read to him, contrasting with President Bush. Some arguing that is not sufficient, including Mark Thiessen. He's actually the one who broke this story about the number of times that President Obama sat for his daily intelligence briefing. He's a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and a former speechwriter for President Bush. Mark found himself at the center of this controversy when he first wrote this column doing the research and accusing the president of skipping more than 50% of his intel briefings, and then the White House shot back at him. Julie Roginski is also here. She's a Fox News contributor and former political advisor to Senator Frank Lautenberg of New Jersey. Okay, both of you, welcome so much.
Thanks.
So, Mark, you've caused a bit of a firestorm, but I mean, it's something that it's a serious matter. I mean, you come out with this before we get attacked overseas, and you raised questions about why the president is skipping more than half of his daily intelligence brief. He gets the brief, but he doesn't sit down with the advisors and actually have a Q&A and an exchange. Then we have this situation unfold, and now they're shooting back at you, saying, unlike your boss, he doesn't need to sit with the group every day. He reads it himself every day. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, exactly right. And let's just get the facts straight. As you pointed out, President Obama, since he took office, has skipped half of his daily intelligence meetings. And I checked that number with the White House before running my column in the Washington Post on Monday, and they didn't dispute the numbers. So after the attacks happened on Tuesday, I went back and looked at the president's official schedule. And it showed that the last time the president had his presidential daily brief, that daily intelligence meeting, was on September 5th. Which is a week before the attack. So again, I went to the White House and I asked them, is this accurate? And are there some meetings that are not scheduled? And they refused to answer and didn't contest the numbers. But Tommy did, and I had about a dozen emails back and forth with him yesterday. He took a shot at President Bush, and he said, unlike your old boss, President Obama receives the briefing every morning in his residence and doesn't have it briefed to him. And I found that incredibly revealing. What this White House actually, takes pride in the fact that President Obama skips his daily intelligence briefing, that he reads it himself, because they say he's this incredibly sophisticated, the most sophisticated consumer of intelligence in the world, and doesn't need to have it briefed to him. A truly sophisticated consumer of intelligence would not shy away from sitting down with experts and getting briefed. And you know, it reminds me of that famous quote from President Obama back in the 2008 campaign when he told the New Yorker, "I'm a better speechwriter than my speechwriters. I know more about policy than all my policy directors. I'm a better political director than my political directors." Well, apparently President Obama thinks he's a better intelligence briefer than his intelligence briefer.
Julie, this has been a criticism we've seen of President Obama from numerous people since he took office, that he doesn't take incoming information to the extent those around him wish he would. You know, folks in the military in particular have been complaining at times that he doesn't listen to them when they give their advice. This seems to feed that narrative, but is that fair?
Well, it's not fair, but to go back to the previous point that was made, look, let me quote Bill Clinton. It takes a lot of brass from somebody from the Bush administration to come out and say that this president does not care about intelligence. During the same week, there was a massive expose in the New York Times about the fact that the Bush administration, in the president's daily brief, was notified of potential attacks, very specific intelligence information, all the way back in April of 2001, sat on it. And I know the Bush people love to believe that their administration began on September 12, 2001. But the bottom line is, despite the President Bush's, very glorified president's daily briefings, the bottom line is that they ended up overseeing a massive, massive catastrophe that happened to this country. So, it's not for them, I think, to come out and criticize this president, who actually has kept us safe here in the homeland, about being bad at intelligence for their record. I think it's just obscene to be able to do that.
But let me shift gears with you and start with you on this, Julie. I'll give you the chance to respond, Mark. But, we've had, 4 American citizens died this week in an attack on our consulate in Libya. And also our embassies have been attacked in several other cities abroad now. And there's a question about whether why that happened, why we had such an important ambassador sitting in Libya on 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11. Karl Rove was raising the question today, saying that made no sense. He was one of our most valuable ambassadors. Why would we have left him sitting in a consulate that wasn't actually even protected anywhere near like our embassies are? And so there is a question in the wake of Mark's reports and others, and the events of this week, about whether we're doing enough to protect American citizens, not only at home, but abroad as well.
Well, I'll say this, and I don't have the answer to that. I don't think anybody has the answer to that quite yet. I don't know what the intelligence showed. Obviously, none of us is privy to the intelligence the president saw before these attacks. Unlike Mitt Romney, I don't want to jump the gun and make assumptions about something that I really don't know anything about. And neither does anybody else who talks about it, short of people who are probably briefing the president on this. And there are very few of those people that any of us has access to. So, to answer your question, I don't know. And it remains to be seen when the intelligence comes out exactly what we knew, whether we should have known it. Of course, we should have known it, but whether our intelligence provided us with that information. And so it's premature for any of us to speculate about that right now.
Go ahead, Mark.
A couple of things. One, the only reason we didn't have another 9/11 on President Obama's watch is because the bomb malfunctioned. The terrorists got a bomb penetrated our defenses, got a bomb onto a plane headed for Detroit, and only because the terrorists screwed it up did we not have hundreds, if not thousands, of people dead. That wasn't a foiled terrorist attack; it was a failed terrorist attack. So please spare me about President Obama keeping us safe. As for the president's daily brief, Julie's argument makes absolutely no sense. She says that President Bush didn't pay enough attention to the president's daily brief before 9/11, yet she's defending President Obama for spending even less time on it.
That's what I'm doing.
President Bush had every day, 6 days a week. And yesterday, President Obama was supposed to have his presidential daily brief, but he canceled it. And you know what he did? He went to a political fundraiser in Las Vegas. So Julie's attacking Mitt Romney for criticizing a statement from embassy in Cairo that even the Obama White House distanced themselves from. But President Obama goes to a political fundraiser. He has no time to meet with Netanyahu. He has no time to meet with his intelligence briefers, but he has time for a political fundraiser in Las Vegas. I think that says enough about this administration's
I'm not whatsoever,
commitment to national security.
With all due respect, I'm not whatsoever saying the president does not read his daily intelligence brief, if that's what you're accusing me of.
No. We know he does. That's what the White House has said. But the question is whether he sits down with the advisors and he doesn't do that 56% of the time, according to Mark's research. But this is what I want to ask you, though, Julie.
Yes.
Look at the optics on the screen. Look what's happening in Cairo. 4 Americans dead in Libya. Now we have protests coming out in Yemen, in Iraq. Across the globe, we're getting more and more unrest, and these people are chanting "Death to America." These are countries that are supposed to be friends of ours. I mean, Egypt was recently an ally. The president says no longer. And there is a question about whether he made the right move in going to Vegas yesterday to hold a fundraiser, while American citizens were being attacked or had just recently died.
I agree with you. I cringed when I saw that he went to a campaign stop. I think he should have stayed in Washington, and I'm not going to defend that decision. You're exactly right. The optics are horrible, and I think he really should have stayed in Washington and monitored the situation as the president from the White House. Yesterday was not a day to campaign, and you're right about that.
What do you think of it, Mark?
I agree with Julie. I'm glad she said that. But the reality is President Obama, to this day, it's now over a week since those attacks, he still hasn't had his presidential daily brief. According to the schedule today, he has not had a meeting with his intelligence advisors. So here we are. A week before the attack, September 5th is the last time he's had his daily intelligence meeting, and it reminds me of the time when John F. Kennedy went to the White House, called all the Nobel laureates in, and said, "This is the largest gathering of talent and knowledge in the White House since Thomas Jefferson died alone." I think that the Obama administration disagrees. They think the largest gathering of intelligence in the White House is when Obama reads his brief by himself.
We had one of the people that JFK relied on in part was Henry Kissinger. I mean, it's amazing how many presidents he has served, either formally or informally. Although he was Secretary of State for Republican presidents, he served. He advised LBJ, he advised JFK and others. So in any event, we had him on earlier. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Megan.
Thank you.
Well, it's hard to